What if events had unfolded slightly differently in Dreamworks Shrek? Imagine if a scenario happened where Shrek the Ogre had the Venom Symbiote. What if Shrek had found the Venom Symbiote within a swamp? What do you think he would do with such an alien symbiote like Venom? Do you think the two would bond perfectly? And what do you think he would do with the Venom Symbiote? Well, within this Marvel's What If, or whatever you would like to call it, crossover, I will be taking two different universes and mashing it up to see what would have happened. As I know, anything is possible, and in today's episode, I will be manipulating the multiverse to figure out how these events might have unfolded if Dreamworks Shrek had encountered the Venom Symbiote and bonded with it. Now, I do want to say, do make sure to subscribe, like, share if you enjoy these What If videos, as I will be doing a lot more than just what if Shrek had the Venom Symbiote. I got a ton of different content coming out that includes a lot of different crossovers, so it's going to be very interesting on the Missed Apart channel in the next couple of months. But that being said, I also do want to say I have a Patreon account, so if you want to follow me for more behind the scenes content, so you can catch this video maybe early, I would highly recommend that you go check it out, as it's just starting at $1 a month. But that being said, let's enjoy this crazy, wacky fan fiction. Shrek and Fiona had just gotten married, and they were living the life. Shrek had decided that he would take Fiona back to his swamp, where he was most comfortable in. As she had transformed to an ogre during their wedding, Shrek felt that it was best to live their lives this way, away from the town filled with humans who despised their kind. A few days into their honeymoon, the king's guards, in their number, came with a signed scroll from the king to announce to the couple that as Fiona was a princess, she was meant to live in the castle at the kingdom of Far, Far Away. Shrek was disturbed by the idea because he didn't want to leave the swamp, which he felt he could be his true self. He had a feeling that her parents would not be as accepting as Fiona was for him. He expressed his dissatisfaction to Fiona. Fiona knew that it was a matter of time before her dad sent for her after hearing about her release from the tower and from the curse. She had to convince Shrek about their move back to the kingdom. Shrek was hard to convince to the relocation, but he decided to agree. As they traveled to Fiona's kingdom, Shrek, inside the vehicle, which was actually a carved onion, still pondered on how the town and the parents of Fiona would accept him as he was. Fiona tried to dissipate his fears by telling him that she too was an ogre, and her parents outed to accept whom she loved. As the vehicle arrived at the palace, the town had gathered amidst the rolled red carpet to welcome the long-lost princess. The celebration came to an end when she, now an ogre, stepped out with her husband, who was an ogre too. This fueled Shrek's embarrassment, as his worry had materialized. The parents who stood at the stairs were short of words and filled with embarrassment. They walked briskly towards Fiona to chatterize her for her choice of a suitor. This led to a brief argument. Eventually, Shrek was taken into the house in order to cover the shame and stop the town's eyes. Fiona's mother tried to show her acceptance of Shrek because he had rescued her daughter from the tower where she was kept due to her curse. The father, on the other hand, expressed his outright disgust for Shrek. Seated on the dining table, Shrek was repeatedly hassled with questions from the father, who thought that Fiona was not making the right choice. After the men were yelled at to behave by their spouses, Fiona stormed out in anger to her room. She was on her balcony when she started crying. Her fairy godmother heard her and revealed herself to her. Shrek walked into the room while the fairy godmother was there and saw Fiona complaining to her about the occurrence between her father and her husband. Her fairy godmother asked her if she wanted Shrek to be human, to which she said no. The fairy godmother noticed Shrek's presence after she had made the suggestion and gave her magic complimentary card to Shrek before she left. When she left, Shrek expressed his willingness to change in order to appease the father of Fiona. Fiona was angered due to the fact that Shrek had considered changing himself to satisfy her father. She eventually left the conversation to bed, leaving Shrek to contemplate on his decision. Shrek went back to bed with the thought still in mind. When he woke up, he was determined to visit the fairy godmother to enact that change. The fairy godmother had motives. She had made a deal with the father of Fiona to ensure that Fiona would be kept in the tower till her son, Charming, found her. But after Charming had slayed through the obstacles protecting the tower, he found the tower empty, except for a wolf dressed in pajamas who told him that an ogre had rescued the princess. Prince Charming reported this news to his mother. The fairy godmother escorted the king of Far Far Away to remind him of the deal that they had made. The king resounded his promise that he would influence the decision of Fiona to ensure that she left Shrek and married Charming. The fairy godmother, on the other hand, told him that she had a plan that would make Fiona leave Shrek for good, that all she needed the king to do was insert a dose of love potion in a drink that he would give Fiona on the night of the ball. Initially hesitant, the king disagreed. He was forced into it due to the fact that the fairy godmother had the power to return him to his original form of a frog. He took the potion and the fairy godmother left. The fairy godmother knew her plan was dangerous, but if she accomplished it, it would serve her perfectly. She quickly grabbed her book of spells and flipped it through the pages, searching for that one spell. She reached the page that had painted in red, signifying its danger. She smiled to herself and read through the ingredients needed for the spell. She was going to turn a beast into a human, but that was not the dangerous part of the spell. She wanted to retain the beastly nature into the human body. This transfiguration was only done by the strongest fairies, and the ingredients were rare. All the ingredients needed to be placed before the spell was cast, because each had to be added at the exact same time prescribed in the spell, unless the effect would be catastrophic. Knowing the ingredients by heart, or so she thought, the fairy godmother placed them side by side in front of her pot to brew the potion. She knew Shrek would come to her. She saw the love he had for Fiona, and she knew love would make anyone do drastic things to retain the feeling. She began the process. She threw in the ingredients one after another. It was time for the ingredients. When she noticed she had forgotten to gather an item, realizing the urgency, she began to frantically search for it. It dawned on her that she had used the last bit of ingredients to create the love potion, which she gave to the king for Fiona. The fairy godmother became uneasy. The spell became catastrophic. If it was started and not completed, she knew that the ingredient grew only in one place in the world, and it was not in her universe. Being a fairy gave her access to the knowledge of the multiverse. She looked at the brewing potion and the spellbook, which informed her that she had 5 minutes before the spell became something else. Wasting no time, the godmother used her wand to create a portal into the universe where the rare ingredient could be found. She immediately stepped through the portal and left it open. She came back 5 minutes later to see the pot vibrating. She crushed the petals of the ingredients and quickly dumped it into the pot. The vibration did not stop. The mixture began to swirl violently as it sucked things into it. The portal, which the godmother had forgotten to close, began to flicker. The fairy godmother noticed and lifted her wand, confused between the pot, which was acting as a vacuum, and the flickering portal. She casted random spells at the two items to stop them. Unknown to her, the place where she had gotten her ingredients from was at a landing site from a stray meteor, which carried a symbiote, which was untested and unsafe. The symbiote entered through the portal and was sucked into the potion by the force of the swirling mixture. Immediately, the pot stopped vibrating, and the godmother contained the portal. The potion became bright pink, as it stated it would be if it went well. She smiled in pride that she had accomplished the toughest spell amongst the fairies. She scoped it into a vial and left it for Shrek, whom she knew would come the following day. Shrek woke up earlier than his wife and searched for the magic complimentary card the fairy godmother had given him. He wanted to change for Fiona, to be accepted by her dad. He left the castle, but a few minutes into his journey, he met Donkey. Donkey was his best friend, and he knew what Shrek was about to do, so he warned him about the repercussions. Shrek, who was determined and had already made up his mind, forged ahead. After encountering another stray animal, Puss in Boots, and activating the magic complimentary card, which gave him the directions, Shrek arrived at the fairy godmother's house. As he entered, he saw no one but the singular pinkish vial with the card tied to the cork. Shrek read the note, which told him he had to drink the potion if he wanted to become human. Shrek threw caution to the wind and drank it amidst the pleas of Donkey. Then it happened. Shrek felt okay for the first few seconds, but the cramping started. The Venom Symbiote wasted no time in latching itself to a new host. It extended itself into his organs and began to spread rapidly. Shrek roared in pain and passed out. Donkey stood by, unable to help him, but decided to run off to inform Fiona of what had happened. When Shrek woke up, he was not himself anymore. He felt different. He felt that he was hungry, more hungry than usual, and there was a distant voice, something that he never heard before, telling him to eat people. Shrek gathered himself and dashed out of the fairy godmother's house to a swamp. When he met some people lurking around the swamp, his stomach rumbled, and he could only resist the symbiote for so long. Like an alter ego, the symbiote took over. Shrek's green-like skin became shielded by a plasmistic black symbiote, riddled with white veins, which was extendable. It doubled the height of Shrek, making him taller than every regular human. The humans saw this and screamed as they ran in fear. The symbiote extended itself in the form of spears and pierced through several of them, weakening them, but one had escaped. It pounced on the humans, ripping off their heads. When it was done feasting, the hunger was still there. Shrek was combating with the symbiote in his mind. At that moment, Donkey came back without Fiona, whistled. He was on his way back to the kingdom. He realized that he needed to confirm the health status of Shrek in order to know what to tell Fiona. On seeing that Shrek was no more at the fairy godmother's house, he decided to check the swamp, the former house of Shrek. Donkey stared in shock at what he had just witnessed. He called out to Shrek in a cautious, scared, and worried manner. The symbiote, who still held the reins over Shrek's mind, turned and stared at Donkey and dashed for him. It dawned on Shrek that he was weaker than the symbiote, as he was not able to stop it from killing his best friend. After it was done, the symbiote retracted into Shrek, leaving him in his normal form, staring at his dead best friend. Fiona had woken up. It was 8:56 in the morning, to an empty bed. She became frantic as she knew what her husband had gone to do. Her first instinct was to go and search for him, but she knew that she was restricted from leaving the palace. She had to wait for him. The ball to celebrate her return with her lover was tonight, and she had to prepare for it. Just then, some maids bursted in shuffling with dresses and other things to prepare Fiona. Shrek had not left. He stayed in the swamp, afraid that he would become the monster again. The one person he had not killed had gone in to inform the town about what Shrek had done. They came in a mob to capture Shrek. Shrek, in fear, was overcome by the symbiote, who had its fill eating the townsmen. He retreated into his home. He was seriously combating with the symbiote in his mind, preventing it from taking over the foreground. He knew Fiona's ball was tonight, but he knew that he could not show up because of the fear that he may hurt her. Even if the kingdom was far, far away, Shrek could hear the resignation of the bell as it was rung several times. The ball was to start at 9 p.m. The fairy godmother's house ran through her plan with her son. He was to pretend to be Shrek in the human form and attend the ball. He would kiss Fiona immediately after she had drank the potion, which the father would slip into her drink. Being the first kiss after drinking the potion, Fiona would fall in love with him. Charming cackled as he loved his mother's brilliant plan. The throne would be his on the demise of Fiona's father, and that sounded good to him. Fiona was pacing. Shrek had not come back since his departure in the morning, and the ball was minutes away. She stared into the night sky and contemplated leaving the palace. She was mentally stopped by a maid who told her that her father requested her presence. The king had gone over and over with his act in his head. He had 2 cups of coffee on a tray in front of him. He had slipped the potion into Fiona's drink already, and the guilt was eating him up concerning what he was about to do to his daughter. Fiona stepped into the tower where her father was. They talked about the ball and how she was feeling about it. Fiona used this time to confess what had happened about the fairy godmother and Shrek going to meet her to be human for his sake. The father, looking remorseful, still stared at her and handed her the cup of coffee. Fiona took it and drank it, and immediately feeling a bit lightheaded. The feeling was over in a matter of seconds. The potion had taken effect. The first person Fiona would kiss would be her true love. Shrek felt weaker. The symbiote, unknown to him, was shutting down his system due to its incompatibility. The symbiosis had failed, so the host could not live together with the symbiote. It was more of a parasite. It dawned on him that he could explain everything to Fiona, as long as he could control the symbiote. Even though he had yet to learn the restraint, he would dive out into a window before he let the symbiote kill Fiona. Mustling enough energy, Shrek began to run toward far, far away when he heard the bell rung for the 9th time. Fiona, who was back in her room, was about to step out when Charming stepped in. He told her that he was Shrek, and the spell had worked. He spread his arms wide for Fiona, who was awash with relief on seeing him. She ran into his arms, and after an endless hug, she sealed her lips to his. The love she had felt for Shrek was nothing compared to what she felt for Charming now. As Shrek ran through the forest, he heard the frantic tolls of the bell, and he knew what it meant. They had concluded the wedding. Shrek was overcome with anger. Anger at himself for falling in love with a princess, anger at the fairy godmother for tricking him, anger at the father for not accepting him, and anger at Fiona for not waiting for him. The symbiote capitalized on his anger to take over him. It breezed through the forest, reaching far, far away in minutes. In his towering black form, the symbiote began to cause havoc. It broke through houses, relishing in the screams of people as they ran to safety. Shrek let it happen as he was overcome with anger, but a small part of him hoped that he was lying and Fiona would have waited. After it had ravaged through part of the town, the symbiote arrived at the palace and climbed the walls, killing the guards stationed to protect it. It stayed on top of a roof and stared at the ball, which was taking place in an open space in the palace. Shrek watched through the eyes of the symbiote as Fiona once again kissed Charming in their slow dance. His heart broke, and he realized that he was right all along. His mind was made up. He would have his revenge. His revenge on the fairy godmother for turning him into what he was. The man who took his woman away from him. And Fiona, his love for her was replaced with double times of hatred. He let out a crucial roar, which attracted the attention of everyone as it leaped from the roof towards the stage as there was a group of musicians playing. The crowd began to scream as they fled for safety, except Fiona and Fiona's parents, who stood frozen in fear, and the fairy godmother, who hovered over her son in protection. The symbiote Shrek locked down his first target, the fairy godmother. He leaped as she casted a spell to ward him off, which he evaded. The king's guards came out in their number to escort the king and his family inside. The symbiote extended itself to knock off the wand from the godmother's hand. It gripped her and pulled her close. Seeing that his mother had been captured, Charming was filled with braveness as he pulled a sword out from one of the guards' body and ran towards the symbiote. Charming leapt into the air while giving a war cry. Without glancing, he was stopped by the symbiote, who had extended another part of itself to hold him. Shrek spoke through Venom, expressing his anger at why the godmother would have turned him into such a monster. It was then it dawned on the godmother that the spell had gone wrong. She tried to reason with Shrek, telling him that there was a cure to remove the symbiote from him. Shrek half listened as he was in a mental battle with the symbiote, who told him that there was no way that they could be separated, and that the godmother was lying. Fiona, who realized who was inside the symbiote, screamed his name. Shrek turned and stared at her as she broke out from the guard's grip and walked towards him with her hand above her head to show that she was unarmed. She dropped her hands as she told Shrek that she loved him and he should stop for what he was doing. Charming, the king, and the fairy godmother were in shock because Fiona had drank the love potion. She told him, because of the love she had for him, that no other charm could sway her mind. Shrek, who was listening, began to drop the fairy godmother, his love for her slowly replacing the hatred. Fiona walked closer to him as Shrek slowly materialized from his towering venom form. She smiled and ran towards him and hugged him. She looked him in the eye and drove a blade through his chest. Shrek stared at her with hurt and shock in his eyes as she went over to Charming and kissed him once again. They shared a laugh, and the father stared heartbroken at what the potion had done to his daughter. She had only pretended to be in love with Shrek in order to get close to him to deliver the fatal blow. Shrek collapsed to the ground, gripping his chest, more of an emotional hurt than physical hurt. Lying on the floor, his anger was renewed. The Venom Symbiote pulled out the blade and closed the gap as it rose, towering over everyone. It went first for the godmother, who tried to fly away. It grappled her and slammed her against the ground before it bit off her head. Charming and Fiona, realizing that it could not be killed, began to flee towards the tower, where the bell was hung. For safety, the king shouted orders at his guards to protect her daughter and the son-in-law, as he and his wife were escorted back to the castle in the opposite direction. Shrek Venom swept through the guards like a pack of cards against wind. His target was Fiona. He wanted to make her feel the hurt she had made him feel. Killing Charming would be a bonus to his emotional wound. After killing the guards, he dashed towards the tower that was shielding Fiona and Charming. He climbed the wall in breakneck speed to ensure he reached the top before they finished climbing the stairs. It reached just in time as the duo emerged from the wooden steps. They froze in shock upon seeing the Venom Symbiote once more. Venom snarled, and its teeth took steady steps towards them. As it leaped at the couple, Charming dove headfirst into the bottom of the tower, that when he dragged, it would shake the bell, making it chime. With the force which Charming gripped the rope, the bell chimed heavily. Venom Shrek, who had held onto Fiona, began to shriek at the loud noise. It shredded and covered its ears as the vibrations slamming into the corner of the tower. Fiona saw the reaction of the symbiote to the sound and jumped on the rope, creating a loud chime. Venom slammed into another corner, breaking the stones. The bell continued as Fiona and Charming gripped onto the rope. Venom forcefully ejected itself from its host, fled through the tower openings in order to escape the noise. Shrek fell to his knees as he coughed out blood. Fiona and Charming climbed the rope when they noticed that the symbiote was no more. As they climbed onto the wooden beam, they saw Shrek coughing blood. Fiona felt a hint of sadness for the creature. She could feel himself dying. The symbiote had shut down a lot of his organs. He looked up and missed the pool of blood, and saw Fiona and Charming staring down at him. He looked at the corner of the tower that had been partially broken off. He realized what he had to do. He mustered energy as he struggled to his feet. He breathed in as he ran towards the corner. Fiona and Charming stretched their arms to stop him. He dove headfirst into the corner as it broke off completely, leaving the top of the tower to collapse upon itself, smashing Fiona and Charming. Shrek sailed through the air, heading towards the ground, when the symbiote, which had stuck to the wall, latched itself to Shrek again. Before Shrek reached the ground, Venom had taken over and prevented them from imminent death. And that is going to be What If Shrek Had the Venom Symbiote? Now, this is a very interesting crossover between Shrek and the Venom Symbiote, and I think it really worked well. Actually, I think this was very, very interesting. It was definitely hard not to laugh throughout recording this video, but I really wanted to make this storyline for a very long time and really dive into new characters and see where these paths could cross. I will be doing another Shrek What If. It's going to be a 2-part series on what if Shrek was in Avengers Infinity War, as well as Avengers Endgame. Now, I will be doing a lot more characters within the multiverse. I want to do a ton more. I got what if Superman crash landed on Coruscant in the Star Wars universe. So there's a lot of different what if storylines that I'm going to be doing, and I think that's the great thing here about Miss the Part and this channel, is that anything is possible, and it's going to be, getting into these new characters is going to be awesome, rather than just, the same old stuff that you might have seen on this channel. But I do want to say, if you're new to the channel, do make sure to subscribe, like, share, and turn your notifications on so you and your friends are all up to date for the latest content, because there's going to be a ton more of these videos that lay ahead, and I cannot wait to share them with you. That being said, thank you so much, and have an amazing day. Peace out.